the only kid on this show. But one common thing that we grew up with in the Midwest, the consecrated Midwest, is the idea of soda pop. Sugary water to drink for fun. Big thing. I have friends in Lincoln, Nebraska who could drink a 2-liter bottle of Diet Coke at a pizza party daily. And they were very artistic, not in great shape, not at a great weight, but I guess they thought that if they drank a lot of Diet Coke, it would make you lose weight. And there are some people, some parents who say, if you drink a diet drink, it negates any other sugars you've taken in. It's not true. So when something fun pops up in my email box, I love to share it. And this is one that popped up. This is an image that in 1947, in these United States de Americano, this is the regions where sody pop were called soda, called pop, and called Coca-Cola. Okay, now this is why this is interesting to me, because it's cultural, and you're going to see the changes in 2023. But back in 1947, and when I was growing up in the 60s, 70s, and 80s in Nebraska, which is right, yeah. Green, it means you call it pop. Now, sort of a similar thing to this is the idea of tea, iced tea. Now, when you're in the Midwest and you ask for iced tea, at least in the 70s and 80s, you were brought tea that didn't have sugar in it. If you wanted sugar in it, you added sugar. If you ask for tea, iced tea, it's plain. However, when you get down here into Coca-Cola country, the South, in the 70s, 80s, 90s, and thousands, if you ask for an iced tea, they're going to bring you iced tea with a lot of sugar in it. Now, in pop country, we call that sweet tea. And we only call it sweet tea because that's what McDonald's over the last 15 years has taught us that it's called. Most Midwesterners I know don't like sweet tea. It's too sweet. And this is the land of no salt, no sugar, no pepper, steak, potatoes, very bland, not spicy. At least it was 100% that way growing up. Now, because of, immigration and migrant workers, things are becoming a little bit better. People are becoming a little more tolerant of what they eat and taste. But in the South, you don't say, bring me a sweet tea. You just say, bring me a tea. And they bring you tea that is sweet. So when the pop people visit their family and friends in the South and say, I'd like to have an iced tea, without the accent, and they're brought a sweet tea instead, the expressions on their face are ridiculously hilarious because they're, what's wrong with the tea? Because it's too sweet. Now, when the Coke people go up here in the Midwest and order an iced tea, and they get an iced tea with no sweetener in it at all, they have a cow. What's wrong with this tea? Where's the sugar? And so then you bring them packets of sugar, and it's not 1 packet or 2 packet or 3 packets of sugar. It's like 10 packets of sugar. Now, some people use the artificial sugar, sweet and low, to make their iced tea. So this is a big problem we have in the United States, where you say one thing one place and it means something else in another place. I'd like an iced tea. Now, people who probably live in the in-between areas say, do you want a sweet tea or do you want a Midwestern tea? But who asks? Nobody answers that. And if the Midwest, if you order a sweet tea now, people will say, we don't have sweet tea, but we'll bring you an iced tea and you can add sugar to it. But here's the problem. You can always add sugar to iced tea to make it a sweet tea. But if you are served a sweet tea and you don't want any sugar in it, it's too bad for you. You're in the South, say, I'd like an iced tea, no sugar. And they're going to look at you like, what? I'm not saying I know this personally, even though I probably do. I have a lot of family in the South. So if you want some kind of tea to refresh you in the South and you have Midwestern no sugar attitude, you're going to have a miserable time. They really don't say, here, brew your own tea. Here's some ice. Make your iced tea. They just bring you sweet tea by default because that is the only tea they know, and you deal with it. So back to the pop, Coke, and soda controversies. Now, in 1947, up until 20 and 23, this was the map. Pop, very popular, Midwest, all the important places. Soda, a lot of California, right? Little pocket here. And soda on the East Coast. Down here in the South, Southwest, it's Coke. So if you want, Coke, Pepsi, Mountain Dew, you say, I want a pop. I'd like a soda, not soda pop. Nobody ever calls it soda pop. Unless you're from here and you move over here to go to school or visit, then you start learning to call it soda pop after you say, I'd like some pop. And people down here in Coke country, they don't say Pepsi, Dr. Pepper, Mountain Dew, because down here, really all they do is drink the Coke. You have one choice, Coke or nothing. You want some sweet tea with that? Now, when you are born here in the Midwest, and you say, hey, I'd like some pop, and you happen to be in New York going to school 35 years ago, you get looks from people. Waiters, waitresses, friends from around there. What's pop? What do you mean, pop? And what do you mean? Pepsi. Oh, you mean soda. No, I mean pop. There's no such thing as pop. And then that's when you get a little defensive. Not that I know. And you say, okay, I'll have a soda pop. Now, up here, if you say, hey, I'd like a Coke, they're going to bring you a Coke. Whereas down here, if you say, hey, I want a Coke, but maybe you want Dr. Pepper, I guess you don't say, I want a Coke. You say you want a Coke, and then hopefully they ask, do you mean Coke, or do you mean Dr. Pepper? And this reminds me of another Midwestern story. A very interesting actress, 40 years ago, from Nebraska, moved to New York, right? Be a big star. And she said the reason that she left, which no one believes, but this is her story. The reason she left New York is because the first day she arrived, she went into a diner and said, I would like a coffee. And interestingly enough, the waiter said, how do you want it? This is diner coffee, all right? And she said, I'll have it regular. Okay. And the waiter brought her a regular coffee. which in New York, I guess, at that time meant with milk and sugar already in the cup. Now, because she's from here, a regular coffee, and this is new to me, and everyone who's heard this story doesn't really believe it, but I'm trying to share regional differences with you. So this actress said, in Lincoln, Nebraska, 40 years ago, when you said, I'll have a coffee regular, it means a black coffee. Now, why you just wouldn't say that? I'll have my coffee black. But in her mind, or where she grew up, maybe she was from a little out here, farther west in Nebraska. A regular coffee means a black coffee. But when you move to New York and you go into a fancy Greek diner, that's probably not very fancy at all, and you say, yes, I would like a regular coffee, and you get a coffee with milk and sugar, and you are so traumatized by that event that you actually decide to leave New York, go to California, Los Angeles, soda country. I guess because that's where the land of riches is. And she became an actress on a soap opera and then I think married a rich guy. So it was the right move for her. But I'm just curious, no one ever asked or followed up, hey, when you went to California and you asked for a cup of coffee, did you start saying, I'd like my coffee black? Or did you keep saying, I'll take a regular coffee and whatever you get is what you get? And I said, hey, what happened to her? Oh, she went to New York and she left because she ordered a regular coffee and they brought it to her with milk and sugar. People in Nebraska, what? A regular coffee with milk and sugar? What? It's impossible. And I remember when I was told this story, seriously, I was told this story by a person with a very serious face. Oh, regular coffee. Sent her out of New York, straight to California. And I thought, what? Why, if you got that, why would you say, oh, I'm so sorry. I'll drink this because I ordered wrong. I'm new here. I say pop instead of soda. Iced tea doesn't have sugar in it. Now I know the regular coffee in New York is milk and sugar. If I want a black coffee, as the diner person yelled at her and said, if you want a black coffee, say I want a black coffee. And I guess that just shook her so much because it was so confrontational, so very New York, that she left New York the next day. I think it's because she couldn't get cast in anything and because New York is very expensive. And then because she went from here to here, had a terrible experience, and then went back here for a while, and then finally back here to Los Angeles, that she learned over space and time, okay, things are different one place over the other. It's the difference between Coke, Pepsi, soda, pop. Now, when I first started teaching on the East Coast, I would say mocked, harassed, made fun of by my students when we would just be, in class talking about something, telling a story, talking about an article, a play, a book, and I would happen to slip and use the word pop. Yeah, I'll have a pop. Oh, he had a pop. And they would all say, what does your dad have to do with this? I said, I'm not talking about my dad, I'm talking about soda pop. Why wouldn't you just say soda? Why are you saying pop? Wait. And one person, when I was talking to a student after class, and again, I happened to mention the word pop in the context of drinking a soda, but I said pop, and this young woman actually recoiled from me and did this. And she said, after I said pop, you sound like my father. I said, I thought she was talking about tone, or, I said something, that reminded her of. She said, yeah, my dad. We live in New Jersey. My dad calls soda pop because he was raised in the Midwest. And she said, it's so gross. And I correct him all the time, and he just says he won't change. He just calls it pop. I said, well, when he says pop, do you know what he means? She said, yes, I know what he means, but it's soda. So those of us from pop country, for whatever reason, still call it pop. My beautiful angel of a wife, the Jana Marie sweetheart, calls pop pop. She does not say Pepsi. She does not say Coke. She does not say Mountain Dew. She says, would you like some pop? I'm going to go buy some pop. And I know what she means because I'm from where she's from. Now here's the updated map, which is where it gets very interesting. 20 and 23. Oh, how the world has changed. This used to be pop country. Very little soda infiltration into pop country. A lot of Coca-Cola. Down south out here. Now, the great state of Nebraska, as you can see, and the great state of almost as great state of Iowa, is still, I would say, pretty much pop country. The Dakotas, definitely 100% pop country. Okay, that's good news. That's the way it's supposed to be. But what about, now this is the part of Nebraska that wants to become a part of Wyoming, I think, right? Weird, huh? The Panhandle doesn't want to be part of Nebraska anymore. And you remember the shape of Nebraska because it is the shape of a gun, which sounds outrageous, but they're actually t-shirts. I used to have one. So I would say Lincoln, Omaha, still pop country. But look at all the gains that soda has made against pop. I frankly don't understand why. I'm not really pleased with it because this has put me in the pop minority, where I used to be in the majority. Coke country has really been compromised. Sody pop is taking over these United States. And it is slightly frightening. I don't know what this means. I don't know what this means for a regular coffee versus a black coffee. I don't know if there is a correlation between sweet tea and iced tea. Gains that soda, especially on the East Coast, is maintaining and expanding into the Midwest is very concerning. As a good son of Nebraska who has been drinking pop all of his life and will not change.